says the courts in Congress seek to create a uniform body of admiralty law, both nationally and internationally, in order to facilitate commerce. Federal courts derive their exclusive jurisdiction over this field of the Judiciary Act of 1789 and from Article 3, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution. Congress regulates admiralty partially through the Commerce Clause. American admiralty law formerly applied only to American tidal waters. It now extends to any waters navigable within the United States for interstate and foreign commerce. In such waters, jurisdiction includes maritime matters, not interstate commerce, including recreational boating. It goes on further, and I don't want to read the whole thing, but it would take up most of this time. It says that the common law does not act as a binding precedent on admiralty courts, but it and other law may be used when no law on point is available. Parties subject to admiralty may not contract out of admiralty jurisdiction, and states may not infringe on admiralty jurisdiction either judicially or legislatively.
Let me ask
That's why I say it's good for the people to go online to that site I just gave, and they can read for themselves what I'm reading here.
All right, I mean, just for my purposes right now, and anybody else who may be looking for it as they're listening to this, I did get the website up. I'm under Admiralty. Where exactly is it in that table of contents?
Okay, it says Admiralty, or edu topics / Admiralty, and then it's .html.
Right, I've got that, but now on that page where it says Admiralty and gives you the table of contents, an overview, menu of sources, federal material.
Yeah, I'm reading here from the overview.
It's from the overview? Okay, I got it then. No problem.
Yeah.
I want to bookmark that too so I can look at it in time to come. All right, now there's no way in the world possibly that you're interpreting this other than it should be?
Right.
All right, now...
Yeah, because when you read this, see, a lot of times when you take things out of context, a little portion out of it, it can be construed many ways, but you have to read the overall thing to get what they're really talking about. And this is what the problem is with most patriots. They pick something up, they read it, and they don't look at the overall view of where it's coming from. And that's why so many times a site can be misquoted from a case when it's just the opposite of what they're interpreting from that little portion that they pulled out.
Growing up with some people, a few of whom became lawyers, I mentioned to you that the one had told me, and we were having a discussion about something unrelated, but he had said that what the American Code of Law is based on the English Code, Civility Code. Is that right?
Yeah, and let me tell you another thing that is very critical. I had, based on this, what we just read, or I just read, I contacted quite a few years back Westlaw, and I contacted their main attorney for Westlaw, and I was citing something about Black's Law Dictionary, and I told him that it was wrong. And he got back to me and wrote back to me and says, yes, we realize it's wrong, and we're changing it, and it will be come out in the 6th edition. So then I asked him another question, and I said, why is it in the back of Black's Law Dictionary, it doesn't list the presidents, but it lists the regnal years of every king and queen from the beginning? And his response was, and I have it in writing, that the presidents are inconsequential to the laws because the laws in this country are based upon the queen or the king reigning at the time, because we operate under those laws today.
What was the error then that occurred in Black's Law Dictionary?
It's in the back and on the in the Blacks, and it lists the years that all the kings and the queens reigned, and it reigned from 1066 all the way up to present. It's on the one page. It goes William, October 14th, 1066. Length of reign, 21 years. And it comes all the way up to Queen Elizabeth II, February 6, 1952, and of course she's still alive.
Well, fortunately, believe this or not, the library for which I once worked, a university library, excuse me, was going to chuck out Black 6th edition. I have it right in front of me. And there it is on page 1657.
Okay, I got 1511 here.
Okay. Is that the 6th that you have?
No, this is the 5th edition.
All right, this is the 6th then. And it does have all the reigns of the sovereigns.
Right. and that's what he said, is that we operate under those principles that were set down by the statutes in the king of that reign, of that year. So in other words, all the plantations, the colonies, were corporate states belonging in America. Of course, the crown, the king, now we're talking about the king. When I say the king, that will differentiate it from the crown, which is who controls the king, the Banks of England. Okay, it's very confusing to a lot of people, and that's why a lot of times they just throw their hands up and walk away, and they can't argue with you because, you know, they think you're nuts.
But yeah, I'm sighing if you heard that, because what I wanted to find out was that all of this, in fact, was urban legend, and it's not.
No.
And I got, you know, even Harry, my sometimes former partner, sometimes present partner, you know, used to get apoplectic when I would talk about, you know, I went into the Dade City Court, and, you know, son of a gun, there's two of them, and they both got fringe around the flag. He's like, oh, that doesn't mean anything, you know. But, you know, it does mean something, doesn't it? As much as, you know, that isn't really what we should be concerned about. It's not there just by mistake, is it?
No, it's the law of the flag. Rustat is a good case. I can't remember the site, but Rustat was a good case for that. But the fringe, okay, a lot of people get misplaced data. And what it is the fringe denotes that it's the commander-in-chief. All right? That's his flag. He can do what he wants with it. And that denotes that he's the commander-in-chief over all the military. So when you go into a court and you see the fringe on it, it is notifying you that you are in a military court, which is under admiralty jurisdiction, going all the way back, doing logical thinking. When the king sent the people over here, he couldn't come over himself. He sent his admirals over. And his admirals set the law. That's why it's called admiralty law. It's really maritime law, but the admiral is as if the king is there, he's his spokesperson, he's his agent. And when they set up the plantations, the admirals controlled, and then they set up the governors. Now the admiral can go back to England, and by proxy, that governor is administering the king's law. So when the revolution started and all this happy stuff happened, the king actually, in the 1783 treaty, gave the people up, but he kept his colonies. They were his corporations, just like GM. You know, they have 5 branches: Pontiac, GM, Chevrolet, Cadillac, and all Oldsmobile and Buick. So put GM in place of the king, and the Chevrolet for New York and all the colonies, so it was 13, not 5. So he gave up the people and gave them their freedom, but he controlled every aspect of the British colonies. He didn't want to give up his corporations. So that's why the people then were here, and they just traded the king for a governor, that's all. In North Carolina, the governor was the royal governor, and there were 2 governors. There was a common people's governor, and there was a royal governor. And then when after 1776, the Governor Caswell, what he did is he was the royal governor, and he became the governor of the state of North Carolina. And in the Halifax Reserves, they had said to the people that they could no longer protect the people. They would have to go it on their own, and therefore the common governor at the time, he just disappeared. You know, he ceased to be any functional at all. Now, what the Governor Caswell